All right. So the Market Exit is one of my favorite YouTube channels, and they brought up something that deeply resonated with me. And we'll talk about the myth of the left and right wing political spectrum. First, I'm going to take a sip of my $8 coffee that I got. Not too bad. Don't know if it's an $8 coffee. Don't know if there's a such thing as an $8 coffee. But I've been really struggling with the idea of the left wing and the right wing spectrum, because I feel like I've noticed myself over the last couple of years just falling out of what that feels like is a trap. Because on both sides of the spectrum, I think everyone is just jokers, essentially. I mean, everyone to me is a joker within our political space. One thing that this guy who's on the Market Exit was talking about, which I think is great, is he talks about essentially your political ideology is chosen in a tribalistic way, just like your sports team. So if you support, pick your crosstown rivals. If you support this team, you're on the left. If you support that team, you're on the right. And we don't really look at it through the lens of policy and what we like or what we think is the right way of looking at things. But I feel like that's just a huge trap that has come up. I feel like it's just one giant trap to keep us down, because on what you would call the left side of the spectrum, or left-leaning side of the spectrum, you have the people, the elites, who basically tell us life is great, life is wonderful, everything's fine, and you should like what's going on. And I feel like that's not the case. I feel like people are having a really tough time affording to buy a house. Like, I feel like I'm very far ahead on the trajectory compared to a lot of other people. I mean, I can't afford to buy a house. I live in a smallish 2-bedroom apartment with my kid and my wife. My childcare expenses are out the wazoo. I mean, you name it, I'm dealing with it. I got the student loans and I'm struggling, but I feel like I'm way farther ahead than a lot of other people. I mean, I just watched a video about how postal service workers are on strike because they're unhoused. They're homeless. They can't afford to pay their bills because their pay is so low, and how dangerous it is and how people are dying in the heat and whatnot. And then on the right, they're like, hey, we're going to defeat the system. We're going to break this down. This thing isn't working for you. But then they put people in place who are literally the architects, the billionaires, who want to deregulate everything and take more money and, tell us God loves us while they're robber barons monopolizing our world. And I think what happens is when we fall into the trap of the left-right spectrum, we get stuck in a tribalistic form of infighting. And I'm just done with it. I mean, I felt like I was nervous when I started seeing myself fall out of this ideology, because I was scared, like, am I falling into the alt-right or alt-left or alt whatever you want to call it pipeline? But I think the reality is I'm not seeing results. I feel like people try to take and that system was working for a while, but you give a mouse a cookie, they want the whole cookie or something like that. They keep on taking to the point where people are starting to wake up to the situation that they're living in. They're starting to wake up to the fact that none of these people are working for us. And essentially they're just using us as pawns to fight with one another and to be anti one another and to be these almost like religiously and ideologically committed people to the left and the right, regardless of what they're doing or how they're performing or whether or not they're helping the public or not helping the public. And even the left-right spectrum has changed. And 40 years ago, Ronald Reagan was for giving amnesty to immigrants, and now we want to build the wall, and it all changes. But for some reason, we just stick to this ideology. We stick to this team, and we fight for these people who don't care about us. And the point that the guy in this video made, which I love the Market Exit, he just said, really the most important thing that you can do and what we should be doing is focusing on what matters to you. I don't have the time or energy or even intelligence to know every single thing that's going on, but maybe I really care about the ocean or extending parental leave. I think it's more important to just fight for the specific issues and collectively fight for betterment than necessarily just trusting these two entities that time and time again make us look like fools. So I'm just done with the left-right spectrum trap. It's all a myth just to take our money and our minds and our brains. And it's even crazy to think about the news channel that you watch, which I don't watch any of those news channels, but depending on what channel you watch, like, you are associated with a specific political team. And they're only feeding you the information that they want to feed you on that side and be specific about which side they want. And how can you even agree with every single policy in a binary system? I mean, you might be anti-abortion, but I don't know, pro-government regulation, or, you pick any. That's two things, and there's like 1,000 different topics and 1,000 different policies that we could be fighting for. Like, how can you be just simply on one side and think about one thing, or believe that one entity, one party is going to look out for you? I mean, it makes zero sense to me. And I'm getting frustrated with the system. And now what we're seeing is more and more people kind of opening their eyes to what's going on and talking about how, the American dream is dying, and it's dying fast. And that's not good. And there's people like me who are kind of stuck in my situation. There's people like me who are just kind of stuck in staying where I am because I don't know what I could do moving away and being separate from my family and leaving all the generations before me that built a life and went from like zero to where I'm at. I don't know if I can leave that because I just have too much vested interest in staying close to my family and maintaining my community and all those kinds of things. But who knows? What are your thoughts? Call me. Tell me how you feel about the political spectrum, about what's going on. Tell me if you're fed up with everything, or tell me that you disagree with me completely and that I'm some crazy lefty. It's crazy. You make up your mind completely about somebody if they say one thing that indicates that they're on the other side of the fake political spectrum that you're on. Like, you're like, oh, this guy's a lefty, this guy's like, no, I'm a person who is hungry and is just trying to pay rent and wants a good life for people. So anyways, call in to the Cactus Dave Hotline, 619-800-5622, and tell me what you think. All right, peace.